guys are tuned into the Fishin' Outrageous podcast. Let me see your two-ass mask. Wow!
Hey, we're back. Fishin' Outrageous Radio, Season 3. We've locked ourselves in the basement here, shielded from the frozen tundra that is winter outside. We're expecting a lot of great things this season. We got more great anglers coming up. We got tons and tons of great prizes to give away. To kick off the new season, we have co-angler extraordinaire turned pro. You can catch him fishing from the front of the boat this year, 2015 FLW Walmart Tour. It's the FLW Viking himself, Jason Johnson. How's it going, buddy?
Pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. Before we get going to anything, you want to divulge into where FLW Viking came from?
Yeah, it's a pretty funny story. Last year at the Forest Wood Cup at the Red River, on the very first day of practice, I was practicing with Cody Meyer, and we're trying to get into this pretty little backwater. You know, it opened up into a big backwater, but it had a real narrow channel getting into it. And we kind of eyeballed it and got out and waded around in the water. And Cody thought he could make it through there. And so we went back out, got the speed up, came back in, and we hit it and didn't get as far as we thought. So we came to a complete stop, and we're literally in about 2 inches of water up on this sandbar. And you know, we're maybe 2 hours so dark, and it's probably 3 hours, and we don't know if we're going to get out. And there's snakes and gators in Louisiana. And so here Cody's looking at me like, I'm a big guy, like 6'5", probably 290. And Cody's looking at me like, yeah, just jump out and pick the boat up and we'll be good to go. So the end of that story is we did make it out barely after we played in the water for 2 hours and dug ourselves out with the sand. But he went on the podcast, FLW podcast, later on that year, and he was telling that story. And Joe Pogger actually came up with that. He's like, yeah, he looks like a Viking. So that's kind of how they came up with FLW Viking.
That's cool. So just jump right in. You've cashed a check in 19 of 21 FLW events over the past 3 years as a co-angler. How have you been able to stay so consistent?
You know, honestly, it's kind of unbelievable. I mean, I really just stuck to a lot of finesse tactics, and you know, I did the co-angler thing to kind of learn more than to make money, but in return, there's money to be made in the co-angler program, and I was able to make some. But you know, honestly, if I went shallow or if I went deep, I just kind of stuck with my baits. You know, a co-angler friendly bait is a drop shot. I mean, it'll catch largemouth shallow, it'll catch some smallmouth and spots out away from the bank, and it just gets bites. And as a co-angler, if you can get bites, then you can catch checks.
So I found out that 5 bites can go a long way.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect example is Lake Murray this year. I think I had 4 fish the final day and came back and finished second. I believe there might have been another 4 fish caught, but nobody caught a lemon, I know for sure. But, you know, one more fish might have won that for me.
Right. What kind of advice would you give to aspiring co-anglers then? Rod selection or bait?
Just, you know, the first thing is to go in with an open mind and go in with the attitude that you're there to learn. You know, I fished a lot more comfortable knowing that I was trying to learn a lot about shallow water fishing and stuff where I could make that move to the front. And I didn't feel like I was there trying to be what sometimes me and a few other people joke about, trying to be a professional co-angler.
Right.
So, you know, going into it with an open mind, sticking with, you know, what you know, what you're comfortable with using. We were limited to 5 rods this year, but I think they're going to 7 next year. So that's going to open up, you know, a couple more options that you could take with you. You know, I've always had at least 2 spinning rods with me, drop shot, a shaky head. You know, even if they're power fishing, you throw something on light line, you know, 8 hours, you're likely to get a couple of bites on it.
Right. Are there any pros that you fished with that maybe you learned more from and that you can take into your rookie year on the tour this year?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. My first year, a buddy of mine that lives close here that's a co-angler too that's stepping up next year, Nick Hensley, he had already met and was kind of running with that California-based or that West Coast-based crew. He was traveling with Kevin Hawk, and that first year he introduced me to Brett Hyatt, Brent Eller, and later on that year I met Cody Meyer. And so I was fortunate enough to, the first year I practiced with Brett Hyatt, and then the second year I practiced with Cody, and his co-angler from years past came back, so this year I practiced with Brent Eller. So you can't ask for, those are the three elite guys in the sport, to have those as practice partners. That was, that was worth the price of admission right there. And a lot of co-anglers feel like the practice days are not that important because you practice with somebody that's offshore fishing deep, and you figure out something and you go shallow during the tournament and you just wasted those practice days. But that's where I learned the most, those 14 long hour days on the Pickwick or Kentucky Lake where you're just sitting out there idling and being bored. You can pick the brains of some veterans that are the best there is, and that practice time was a lot more important to me than the tournament itself.
So coming up this year, then we have you have Lake Toho, Lewis Smith, Beaver, Eufaula, Chickamauga, and the Potomac. Which one are you most excited about? Why? And which one are you the least excited about, and why?
What I'm least excited about is the first one of the year, which is not a good way to start the year, but Lake Toho is the only lake on the schedule that I've never been to before. It's Florida, and it'll fish similar to Okeechobee, but there's a lot of variables there. You can walk to a lot of different ways. And we'll try to get down there this winter sometime before it goes off limits and look around, because you don't want to get started off the season with in a hole. But the second tournament of the year at Smith Lake, Lewis Smith, is probably the second and third. Smith and Beaver are probably my two favorites for next year. Smith Lake's got a lot of the giant spotted bass like we got here where I live. And if we have a pretty strong winter like they're predicting, I'm hoping that those spots will still be, fairly deep instead of pulling up, getting ready to spawn. And then Beaver Lake's one of my favorites. A lot of people don't like Beaver Lake, but I just like the way it fishes. It's got a ton of clear water down towards the dam, and you can go up and fish the stained water, and it just spreads the field out, and it's just a real fun place to fish.
So what are some of your let's call them goals or expectations for the coming year then? Obviously making the Cup.
Yeah, that's probably the number one goal, is to make the Cup, because you had a pretty good year, made some money, and you get a chance to fish for $500,000. So that's probably the primary goal. I would like to hopefully make one top 10 and get a fishing, on the big stage with all the cameras and all that. Just be consistent. That's the main thing. I just hope I can be, close to as consistent next year out of the front as I was out of the back of the boat.
Is there anything that, like any sort of tournament prep that maybe you found out touring around with the guys that you could share, like before between pre-fish before the tournament?
Yeah, it's just, thank goodness. I know the elite guys, they get to be on the water up till, I think, a couple hours before the tournament meeting. That day off that we get with FLW is, God, it's important after you've had 3 long practice days, and you got to take, and, watching, as a co-angler, I make sure my line was in good shape, but, if I, used the rod at the last tournament, didn't use it much, and the line seemed all right, I would push it and try it again at the next tournament. And that's one thing, I learned from Brent and Cody and all my other buddies that fishes professionally. With that much money on the line, every rod and reel has to get completely redone on the tournament, the day before the tournament. All the line stripped off, brand new line, all new hooks on your baits, check everything. It's just go through your whole boat basically and get ready for that tournament day, because you want the least amount of problems you can have while you're out on the water fishing.
Right. Control what you can control, right?
Yeah.
All right. What we kind of skipped one thing here. What was the ultimate factor into this year being the year you jumped from the back to the front?
Didn't really have a decision, as far as how my season went. When I started as a Delaney, I kind of thought 3 years was a good moment to do it. And it just happened that, this year, I was saying earlier, I didn't really fish the culinary program to make money, but I was able to make money. So I kind of set up a separate fishing account and put a lot of the money I won back instead of spending it. And got fortunate and got second at the Cup this year and got another $10,000 check. Just thought, now's the time I got the money saved to pay my entry fees and try to get a little bit of help. But rookies usually tend to have to bankroll their first year themselves until they can kind of get out and prove what they can do and how they can represent the company. So just a good time, and I feel like I've learned a good bit about shallow fishing. I'm more comfortable reading my graphs out deep, so I'm looking forward to it. A lot of the lakes next year, I'm hoping to be able to utilize my graph and fish out deep. The schedule's kind of setting up for a lot of them to be that way.
I read that. Drop shot's that's your bag, so I guess that set up kind of nice then.
Yeah, drop shot's probably my number one go-to bait when I need a bite. It's just something I grew up for the last, 8 years, 9 years. I've really utilized on Lake Lanier and just got a ton of confidence that not only do you catch numbers, but you can catch some of the biggest fish in the lake on a drop shot.
Right. I'm going to throw you on the spot then here before I let you go. Other than the FLW Viking sandbar incident, was there anything else that happened in the boat? Maybe a funny story that you can share? Or
there's probably a ton of them. I know if you come to mind right now, nothing comes to mind right off. Like last year, practicing with Cody every day was just a laugh fest. Me and him was joking and kidding with each other all day long, and probably sometimes to effect that we needed to start focusing more on fishing. We was having so much fun, but that digging off the sandbars will go down in my memory bank forever, because laying down that high Trilla with knowing that snakes and gators are around you in August in Louisiana, and it's mosquitoes everywhere, and it's just an unpleasant feeling not knowing if you're going to get out before dark.
Yeah, I bet. I know, last year was the first year I went south to fish, south of the border. And when I was on Grand, I was at the back of the boat, and I was about a foot from a snake, and I'd never seen a snake on the water before, so I jumped pretty high, and I think at the time my pro was Kyle White, and he had a pretty good chuckle at the front of the boat while I was screaming like a little girl at the back.
Yeah, I'm absolutely terrified of snakes, and when you go to anywhere in the south, you got them, but the Red River, just any rock you seen or any patch of grass you seen, there were just snakes crawling off through them, and most of them look like, water moccasins or whatever you want to call them down there, but they all look poisonous to me. Any snake looks poisonous to me.
I hear that. Well, all right, that's all I got for you tonight. I want to wish you the best of luck in 2015 on your rookie year. I'm sure I'll be seeing you down there somewhere throughout the summer. So good luck.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.